So, our first review of the day is going to be for the film The Incredibles. Film that came out all the way back in 2004. This was written and directed by Brad Bird. Brad Bird, who, from the success of this, and went on to do actually live action films and did a pretty good job. He did Mission Impossible. Then he did, Tomorrowland is not so good, but
Tomorrowland's some ass.
but he did.
But Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is so damn good that we kind of forget about Brad Bird's sophomore slump in live action.
But you had that. But The Incredibles, it's his 20th anniversary. Fantastic film, as a lot of people say, still well remembered today. The sequel came out decades later. Came out, I believe, in 2019. I think the sequel.
It came out in 2018.
2018.
It came out 14 years later, picking up right where the first movie left off.
Yeah. So we're also going to talk a little bit about the sequel there. We're not going to do a full review of it, just to discuss a little bit about the sequel there. And so, The Incredibles. A lot of people say, like, well, who needs a Fantastic Four movie when we already got one? I mean, we got The Incredibles, right? I mean, a family superhero dynamic.
It's me. I'm people.
Yeah. So who kind of needs that, right? So, this is considered one of the GOAT, Pixar movies they're made. A lot of people think that this is their number one or top 5. What do you all think it ranks for you amongst Pixar movies?
Oh man,
for me, this is probably a top 5 Pixar movie of all time, and it's not number 5.
Yeah, I have to agree because I think Brad Bird has 2 of my favorite Pixar movies with this and Ratatouille.
I keep forgetting he also did Ratatouille.
Yeah, right. They're definitely in my top 5. I don't know what number for sure though.
What about you, Dust?
This one's really up there. I think what made this Ratatouille is another good choice. Brad Bird has made a lot of good collective decisions, and then he's kind of, as time has gone on, made less good. But I mean, he's made some fantastic. You can't take that away from him. And this is by far probably maybe one of his best. Everything just works in this movie.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what is this about? So you have The Incredibles, the family there. They have these superhero identities, and it starts with Bob Parr, who's the patriarch of the family, voiced by Craig T. Nelson. He does a really great job voicing. First of all, the voice work by everybody's really great here. They do really pitch perfect here. But you see, it's kind of like more the golden age of kind of superheroes. And somebody pointed out, like, you see this movie is kind of more of a also commentary of the transition from like the golden age to more of the silver age in comics. There that you kind of see. So you have a character in Craig T. Nelson who plays Bob Parr, who is his superhero identity is Mr. Incredible. His superpower is really, strong guy. He's got strength. He's very super strong there. And the movie starts off where you see a lot of the early days there. You have Elastigirl there, which was probably for a lot of people their big first animated crush was Elastigirl.
It's me. I'm guys.
You see Holly Hunter, who's there, who's Helen Parr. She's Elastigirl. So you see the early age of like these superheroes. They dominated. They were saving people, doing the thing. And then one guy, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna sue the shit out of one of these superheroes. He tried to save me. One guy commits suicide. He tries to commit suicide. Bob,
the most realistic aspect of that movie.
And he ends up he saves the guy's life. He was trying to commit suicide, and he ends up suing him because he ended up hurting him. Which is kind of the craziest thing ever. He's going to die anyway, but I'm going to sue you for breaking my collarbone.
Hey, this is America, the land of the free and the home of the lawsuit.
So that causes a whole lot of issues. It starts to kind of train down there too.
Yeah, and back in 2004, I think public perception about superheroes there was kind of this like larger than life thing. Nobody was really doing stories where we tried to ground them in the real world, and you could see this concept adapted into projects later with stuff like the Marvel Comics Civil War, where, okay, what if we looked at the real world consequences of superheroes? And, a lot of people are probably filing lawsuits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of see that here. And that led to kind of the downfall of the superhero. After that, no really more superheroes. Tons of lawsuits, and then the government decided to hide these superheroes.
It's like,
give them
fuck it, you are too damn expensive.
Hide them, give them regular jobs, regular lives, And that's what kind of the movie picks up after that. You see kind of Bob, he's working kind of a mundane insurance office job there, just completely bored to tears.
They put his cubicle next to the box that says high voltage.
Yeah. I mean, just this, like, I don't want to say even middle management, kind of just lower level guy there working this job, went from kind of these great heights to now you see him just working this cubicle office job there.
Yeah, at an insurance company, and we all know how much they like to fuck people over.
Yeah.
No, they save people. What are you talking about?
So that's kind of the setup here. And then he kind of gets called back in action. He's very big on trying to relive his glory days. Part of that, what he does with his Samuel Jackson character who plays Frozone there, Lucius. There he kind of tries to relive those glory days, goes out trying to save people as much as he can there, do a little things here and there. And he kind of gets an offer, an opportunity there from a character called Mirage there, where he kind of gets a chance to get back into the superhero life. And you see kind of with this, like with the various stuff in the montage kind of going on, where he starts working out again. He starts being more attentive to the family, to the kids. If this was like a true crime documentary, this would be like right before he murders his whole family.
This is like he starts having an affair, and then all of this great stuff happens.
Yeah. So yeah, you see, he's making more money, he's getting a new car, he's losing weight, he's working out again.
Him and his wife start fucking again.
Yeah. Spark is back, man. It's the new lust for life. So what are some of you guys' opinions on The Incredibles here?
So when I first saw this movie, this was pre the massive nerd that you see before you today, the one before all of the comics and superhero posters. And when I saw Incredibles, I really didn't have a concept of what these characters were or what they could be. And The Incredibles really opened up my eyes to it. I think one of my first experiences with superhero, I think it was the 2002 X-Men movie, and then of course 2002 Spider-Man, and then this movie came out a couple years later, and it really showed me that there are so many cool and interesting story decisions that you can make with a concept like this. And revisiting this movie several times over decades, it's cool to see how well this movie has aged, not just as a straight up superhero movie, but as a love letter to the spy genre, making kind of this own James Bond parody, and how really grounded the movie is. How this is set in an alternate 1960s, seeing technology that is future tech, but still has that 60s flair and aesthetic to it.
Yeah. Dusk, what about you?
Yeah, this. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly in what Nick says. I think what I really loved about it was its added bits of retrofuturism, where it stuck to its themings and did talk about it. I think what I love most about it is, yes, it's a superhero movie, but it's also just about someone settling into their life, having that kind of taken away, and all the small decisions that one does to try and relive their glory days, try to recapture what really worked and what didn't, maybe kind of forgetting what the present and what's really should be celebrated at the moment, but it's not completely away. And you see that when it's Mr. Incredible, and because of his decisions, it bleeds into the rest of his family, who then have to come in and help him out later. And through that, he gets a new appreciation for just life in general. I think it's a very beautiful movie, very well executed, great dialogue, fantastic voice acting, and honestly, that just came from the work of everybody, the chemistry between everybody, and the way they talked, the angles in which the animation, the way they draw the characters is very interesting too. Like Mr. Incredible is very top heavy. He's very super strong, even though he's got a gut. Yeah, you kind of get an understanding.
Man skipped leg day.
No, you get a characterization of who they kind of are just by the visuals alone.
Yeah, and I think a couple years ago, I watched this with my girlfriend at the time, who knew nothing about superhero movies, who knew nothing about any of these characters prior to it. And the second that Violet pops up on screen, she guessed her superpower before you were ever shown it.
To me, it's a perfect synthesis of just creative writing and executing really well done design. You can just tell that this team had a vision and they just executed it really well. But I think an element that I also really enjoyed, which isn't just in the movie, but it's also around the movie. That trailer that we saw, that scene's not in the movie.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's not, but it set you up to kind of get you into what's going to happen. There's one of the best DVD releases they ever did. The Pixar like early releases, it's such phenomenal work. There's like extra, they put a lot of extra work into it. Commentary with I actually rewatched this with the commentary of Mr. Incredible and Frozone as they're watching the movie, giving their commentary on it.
Okay, that is so freaking cool. And this was back in the days when Pixar would on a lot of their movies, they would like fully animate bloopers as if they were live action characters being filmed.
Yeah.
And
Did
they
that in
also
Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story as well. They added PSAs from the time. I mean, yeah.
Goddamn right.
They added PSAs, unique PSAs for DVD release. They didn't have to do all that extra stuff, but they did. And it lets you understand the world that they live in better as well.
Yeah, and it's something that with how animation works today, it's something that would never really we don't see at all today.
Yeah,
because animation is so expensive, and so many of these studios are pretty much just money driven. The home release market isn't as big of a thing anymore, so movies that don't like hit it right away at the box office can't build a following and turn a profit on home video. So studios aren't greenlighting the budget in order to do a lot of these things.
But I think it also was a testament to, even this didn't succeed, we had a vision of a world and characters that we wanted to build anyways. So even then, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I guess it's in the archives. But it really paid off. And honestly, you could just keep going on and on about just how everything was well executed, from the villains to the heroes to the comments on capes, which everybody laughs at, but it's a solid comment.
And it's a solid comment. And, through subsequent rewatches of The Incredibles, it takes on a much darker tone because, all of the heroes that are in that no capes montage were at Bob and Helen's wedding at the beginning of the movie. And so was Edna. So it is less of him just like making fun of the whole like no capes trope and more recounting, all of my friends have died through the use of my designs.
Yeah, she's like, no more of those capes. They're danger hazard. None of that. I'm moving on.
Yeah. And hello, Academy Win. Thanks for showing up here. And thanks you for the subscription, by the way. 2 months in a row.
And the great thing about Edna too, because we mentioned her, I love that she was a co-opting of a real person, a real fashion designer, and they used that to influence her. And the voice actress who played her nailed it.
Yeah,
Brad Bird.
That voice actress was Brad Bird.
Well, Brad, you fooled me. There you go.
And then here's some stuff right here with Edna Mode there to show a little bit.
You push too hard, darling, but I accept. Heroic.
Yeah, something classic, like Dyna Guy. Oh, he had a great look. Oh, the cape and the boots.
No capes.
My decision.
Do you remember Thunderhead? Tall, storm powers. Nice man. Good with kids.
Listen.
November 15th to 58.
And you can really barely even tell that is Brad Bird. Like, it doesn't sound like a guy whatsoever.
You'd be very forgiven.
Was not the brightest bulb.
Stratogale, April 23rd.
Right
I love how she has it all memorized. Every date.
Meta Man, Express Elevator, Dyna Guy, snag on takeoff, splashdown, sucked into a vortex. No kicks.
Oh, wow.
It gets so much darker when you think about it.
Yeah.
Brandon, what are your thoughts on The Incredibles here?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Dusk and Nick said. Like, I love this movie. I think when I saw it as a kid, like, I was all in on like Spider-Man and X-Men and all that stuff. So seeing like an animated superhero movie like totally blew my childlike mind back then. And like just with what Dusk was saying, how like Brad Bird kind of does this retro futurism. I feel like he does it like so well in this. Like, I love the setting of this movie and like superheroes. And like we mentioned the golden age earlier, and I feel like that's just such a like when people think of superheroes, that's kind of just like the prime example of like the best of superhero. And I love that The Incredibles take place in this time, like Nick mentioned, like Civil War, but like it also reminded me of Watchmen, like no more superheroes. The government, we're done with that. Uh, so this is the kid version of Watchmen for all you people who don't want to watch Watchmen. Um, but yeah, no, I am in love with this movie. It's probably um like next to the Iron Giant, probably like my favorite Brad Bird movie. Um
Mm.
like in that movie as well, he's obsessed with like the retro futurism and like superheroes and what's it mean to be different and all this stuff. Um so yeah, I think this is like one of the best superhero movies probably like ever.
Yeah. And yeah, I forgot about the Iron Giant. Yeah, I forgot he also directed Iron Giant. He's got a lot
Mhm.
of bangers on his resume.
Yes.
There. Actually, I have never
Yeah.
seen Ratatouille. I've never actually seen.
Oh,
Oh,
dude.
fuck!
I've never actually seen.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen
Oh,
Ratatouille.
you bitch!
But yeah, I've seen his other work there, but I've never seen Ratatouille. But yeah, like you said, really amazing movie. And what really kind of helps this movie is it's just as good at doing the superhero stuff as it is doing the family stuff. Like you see some superhero movies, like we mentioned that in Blue Beetle,
Mhm.
where Blue Beetle is like it's good at doing the family stuff, but then the superhero stuff is like, well, you are a superhero movie. You still got to also be good at doing that, and it's kind of male on that. This is good at really doing both of those. And you see stuff like here, the dinner scene, especially, I think is a real good showcase of that, of showing them like as a family just
Mhm.
together here. You got the
Yeah,
mom.
it's like mom's doting over the baby, the two like middle siblings are fighting. Dad could give less of a shit.
Like you see him, like he just checked out. He's just reading the paper. He don't even care what's going on.
Yeah.
Like wife is talking to him. He's just going, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, honey.
Dash, you have something you want to tell your father about school?
Well, he likes sex and a frog.
Dash got sent to the office again.
Good. Good.
No, Bob.
What?
Dash got
Terrible.
sent to the office again.
What? What for?
Nothing.
Put a tack on the teacher's chair during class.
Nobody saw me. You could barely see it on the tape.
They caught you on tape and you still got away with it? Whoa. You must have been looking how fast you were.
I'm encouraging this.
I'm not encouraging. I'm just asking how fast you
Honey!
Man, not even paying attention. Jeez, come on, man. But I like that stuff. Like we see them at the dinner table around, surrounded by the family there. I think that's really good stuff. We see the brother and sister fighting there. I think that's really good. Like you have that pulled up here.
Coming in the house.
You started it.
You sit down.
It's like, no, fuck this one.
Man, then she's calling in the husband to kind of get engaged here. You see this?
Do something. Don't just stand there. Intervene.
You want me to intervene? Okay. I'm intervening.
The baby's just vibing.
Yeah, perfect family there. Yeah, so I think it's really good at doing that stuff too, which I think also makes this movie really great. It's great at handling kind of both
Mhm.
those things. And Dust mentioned the villain of this movie,
Ooh.
Syndrome.
Yeah,
there, who-
it's one of the first times we ever really talked about toxic fandom in pop culture.
You're not affiliated with me.
Not
and that's voiced by Jason Lee, who voices
as
Syndrome.
yeah, as both his younger and his older version of the character.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
What do you all think about Syndrome? There as a villain?
I think he's like Nick just said, like a very good look at this toxic fandom, especially like for 2004.
Hmm.
And like how we know how comic book fandoms are not just
Mhm.
comic book fandoms in general
Yeah.
can be about the things that they enjoy. And so like the way they do it here is like very like I'm trying to compare it to something, but I can't really like
I mean,
uh,
Jack
there's
Quaid and Scream.
there's like an entire like section of both pretty much all of our platforms that are dedicated to exactly that.
yeah. But I think like Syndrome here is like he's a villain that's fun, but also like can be like scary. Like this is a dude with too much money and too much time and way too petty.
Yeah, he's terrifying in the way that he is just a normal guy with too much money and too much time on his hands. It's like something that is fascinating to me about this movie is like even though Bob is a very selfish character throughout this, he's really struggling hard to relive his glory days. But even when he is doing that, he's still helping save people. Meanwhile, Syndrome is just putting people's lives in danger just so he can act like a superhero.
Yeah.
And when you realize this movie, like the darker elements of it, you realize that Syndrome, this dude was a serial killer. I mean, it was like,
it's terrifying. And so many of the people in that montage were also at Bob's wedding. So these aren't just like names on a slideshow for him. These are his friends. These are people that he knows. They have a file on his wife. They know where his best friend lives.
And you see right here, he's looking up all the names. Dead. You know what I mean? Like all these people that he used to know back in the day just gone, just like that.
And the other hero of this is Michael Giacchino, who made one of the best scores of the early 2000s. I mean, the man has no misses.
And you see, like I said, toxic fandom exploring that. You see both the younger and the older version of Syndrome there kind of show up. Again, great voice work there by Jason Lee, and the way he kind of does it, and it shows how kind of evil the villain is, which was really great. Dusk, what's your opinion on Syndrome there?
Yeah, he may be one of the best villains in a superhero movie they did with a limited amount of time. You both get to sympathize with him early on. He is a fan. He does want to help. There is earnesty there, if a little overabundance of earnesty. And Mr. Incredible can see that, but at the same time, also like, kid, you're gonna get yourself killed. Just
and also he's trying to get to his wedding.
Yeah, so it's a level. It becomes a level of don't meet your heroes, but at the same time, your hero is trying to like lay some reality on you, like,
and your hero is also a person too. And he was like saying, it was like, I signed every single piece of paper you shoved in my face at that convention. I smiled for photos. I did everything you asked for. I'm trying to work, man.
Yeah, it's so you do understand where both characters are coming from, and that's what makes them good. And what makes Syndrome interesting is he honestly could have been a fantastic hero if that pivot wasn't to take all his skill, time, talent, and passion into systematically destroying his heroes as a whole. And his plan is terrifying. It's like, well, then if everybody is the same as you, then nobody is. And it's a pretty solid, like, all right.
Yeah. And this is probably going to be a hot take, but Syndrome reminds me a lot of Zack Snyder. in the way that his entire perception about what makes superheroes special is just in the powers. It's not in any of the contents of their character. It's why Snyder is such a terrible choice to direct Superman.
He views them as gods, really. He views them as gods, better than people, better than human beings, and that we could never hope to achieve any level of it. And he really, I think this one, if we're going to do that, Zack Snyder always gave me the vibe of, he could give two craps about human beings as a whole. He just doesn't care. They're just supplementary to what, like Syndrome, they're just there to be saved. Honestly, Zack Snyder would make a pretty good villain. Honestly, not understanding what it means to be a hero or anything.
Yeah, and this is especially for its time, this is kind of like a PG version of something like Invincible.
Yeah.
And that you're taking the superhero genre, you're putting it in this kind of like alternate, more retro futuristic world and letting us live in the drama of them as people.
Kenny Williams says, scared to make sense. Many anime villains are just a one-track man wanting to take over the world. He was kind of just, trying to finesse, trying to grift a bit, trying to pretend to be, a hero there, the hero that people wanted. He wanted everybody to see him as the hero that he wanted to be, because he creates this like machine that is has the purpose of killing heroes, and he's going to show up and be the big hero there. and then take down the machine, and he's gonna have everybody kind of see him. And basically, what he was doing was what Mysterio did in Far From Home. That's
Yeah.
what he's kind of doing.
He's basically creating a Sentinel.
Yeah,
He's just getting better iterations of Sentinels. And unfortunately, that comes to bite him in the butt later.
Oh yeah, it's like this character is so smart, but he is also still very human in that he didn't create a contingency plan for losing his remote that controls the robot.
Yeah.
And he is supposed to defeat a self-learning robot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Young
Dave, be
Syndrome
true to yourself,
right
but
here.
You never say which part of yourself to be true to. Well, I finally figured out who I am. I am your ward. Incrediboy!
And just a little thing. Just for a movie from 2004, it is still so beautifully animated. It's like even that like one little frame of young Syndrome in his reflection, how it's so much bigger than he is. It tells us everything we need to know about his character.
Hey,
This is because I don't have powers, isn't it? Well, not every superhero has powers, you know. You can be super without them. I invented these. I can fly. Can you fly?
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
Oh, and that crushed him right there when he said that. Oh man.
Yeah, and even his like flashback of that moment is like, it's like in this moment it's like, okay, the man is trying to work, but Buddy just misremembers that of Incredible just talking down to him. He doesn't think about, you know, he was working. He was trying to apprehend this superhero villain, which the aptly named Bomb Voyage.
yeah, great pun.
Amazing name.
And this is adult Syndrome right here that we see when he finally kind of has Bob in his grasp right here.
It wasn't good enough. After you trashed the last one, I had to make some major modifications. Sure, it was difficult, but you are worth it. I mean, after all, I am your biggest fan.
Buddy.
You know, it'd been funny if he called him Brody. He fucked up his name again. Like, oh shit, it's Brody. Buster. Oh shit.
No, it was dumber than that.
And it's not incredible either. That ship has sailed. All I wanted was to help you. I only wanted to help. And what did you say to me?
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
It tore me apart.
Damn, that's a school shooter right there, ain't it?
Oh, wait, that's like the best part of him, like tearing down like the poster.
Yeah, that's. I think this movie also does a good job of showing Syndrome is a great reverse. It's just it's like a great reverse of what Mr. Incredible is going through, where he's really glory days, and Syndrome is what glory days. It's the complete opposite. Like only glory for you, not for everyone else, and me included. We were left behind while you were doing all that other stuff, and I just wanted to help. And they just, it's a great villain because it's a like all great villains. It basically comes from a misunderstanding or a moment of a path that could have changed, and that's where it gets really interesting. And instead of focusing on that and being like, screw you, I'm going to be a better hero than even you are, and doing that and going the high road, he's just like, oh, you want to be like that? Okay.
I'm going to kill all of your friends.
Yes. And like, oh man, this could have gotten so darker than that. Like you're in the movie theater, especially if you're first time viewing it, you maybe like recognize one or two of them, but you really probably don't catch that wedding scene where they're all there and it's systematically
it's one of those things that it's one of the reasons why I think this movie stands the test of time as not just one of the greatest up there with the top tier of Pixar, but one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, in that it is infinitely rewatchable. There's like there are things that you don't catch in your first, second, third, fourth time watching this.
There are so many this scene in particular and that callback, that's probably the reason why they were able to get it through the MPAA. Because if they had alluded to that even more, they would have gotten like a PG-13 or something higher.
Yeah. And you see, this is the wedding scene right here.
PG Pixar?
Yeah, this was the first rated PG Pixar movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to be.
Because, people die.
Yeah.
Husband and wife fuck in the confines of marriage.
They, as they rightly should, as they are man and wife.
See all these heroes.
Oh.
Yeah. all
Yeah,
these
how are they
things.
going to be conspicuous with all in costumes except for like one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in this world, superheroes are kind of treated the same as like cops or like plumbers, and that they're just a part of regular everyday life, at least when they were legal. And this is kind of like an industry event.
Yeah, that is something that I think it's one of those things that made me feel so like meh. Incredibles 2, in that even though, and it's many years later, they really never. It took an entire movie for them to bring their characters together, and then the whole other movie is separating them apart, and the kids could have like f all to do with that entire movie, and it really becomes the last girl. And while that is an interesting way to go about it. It goes, well, okay, all right, that's fine if the way you want to go, but how is this inverse going to be utilized really properly? It's like, nah, I mean, the main character, Mr. Incredible, is just going to be chilling with Jack.
Yeah, and me, I like Incredibles 2 a lot. I like the different take that they had, in that, even though for us it was 14 years later, for them this was like the next day after the end of the first movie.
And do you like that decision, like them kind of picking up, since we're talking about Incredibles 2, picking up right after the first Incredibles? Because I think a lot of people maybe hope that it would actually, the time would go by and they'd be, older, and they'd be probably in their 20s or late teens there.
I could have been fine with a couple of months later. They're doing their thing. There's like a newspaper clipping of what happened at that adventure with the Underminer. And it's like, okay, they're just starting to get things around and they're trying to settle. You could have still had this a couple of months later, and superheroes now are like, well, maybe we should bring them back. We'll see how that goes. But instead, they kind of go this other route. And while the premise is solid enough, I just didn't feel like it completely fulfilled the potential. And I also felt like it mischaracterized a couple of characters here, specifically Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. I feel like they just really didn't match what they were beforehand. And some of the dialogue was not as it just didn't understand the history that came before in that first movie. They say some certain things, you're like, why would you say that? Like, you obviously know. And it just felt like this movie, we had an idea for this, but we didn't actually get around to it to 14 years later. So most of the people involved is no longer involved.
Yeah, for me, I have a lot of nitpicks about this movie, like Dust was saying about picking it up like basically a day later and not letting the characters age up a bit. But I think this movie pairs really interesting compared to the first one, where we're getting in the first movie, we're getting Bob trying to relive his glory days and, seeing the consequences of that. We're letting that role get reversed here, where Elastigirl is the more active here, and Bob is the one who is, has to be the one to take care of domestic life. And a huge part of the first movie is him feeling like, his best days are behind him. It was like he doesn't have a real purpose anymore. And I think in the second movie, it's like, being a parent is its own kind of superpower in its own right.
Go. And I was gonna say, just very quick, I agree with both of you. I don't enjoy part 2 as much as part 1. I really wanted to love part 2 when I first saw it, but like upon rewatches, I do enjoy it for what it's for, especially like those Elastigirl scenes. Like,
I bet you did like them Elastigirl scenes.
Damn right I did.
But no, like chase
I'm tired of pretending it's not.
The chase scenes she has with the train, or like some of the stuff with like
it's so goddamn inventive.
Right?
It's like on paper, it's just okay, a simple motorcycle chase with Elastigirl. It's like, oh wow, we're getting like every single moment in that chase, we're getting a new and interesting look about how her powers work.
Right? Yes.
They're
just the bike in general is so fucking cool.
They're great set pieces.
Yeah.
But that's all they are. They're great set pieces with a super thin story that doesn't even come close to the first. None of the nuances that the first one had. And a villain turn that I'm pretty sure was a last minute change. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it.
And for me, it worked, especially because there is so much of that misdirection with Bob Odenkirk as the voice of Dever, and how much he is in love with superheroes. And you also, it's Bob Odenkirk, it's Saul Goodman himself doing the voice of that.
Yeah.
And every single frame of it is saying that this guy is our main villain.
He's the bad guy. Yeah.
I no, they did a great job voice acting. I just I'll just gasp.
Yeah. So yeah, back to the Incredibles here. So yeah, and like I said, you have such a great voice cast and the voices. So you have, like I said, mentioned Craig T. Nelson, mentioned Holly Hunter, people playing Violet and Dash. So you have Sarah Vowell who played Violet. You have Spencer Fox who played Dash there. We mentioned Jason Lee who played Syndrome. Also, big name that we forgot to mention, Samuel L. Jackson, who is Frozen. Who is good old Frozone.
Hey, we call him by his proper title on this show. Samuel motherfucking L. Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
And some people kind of wanted a spin-off with Frozone. Would
Hmm.
you like to see that maybe?
Sure.
Sure,
Maybe
yeah,
a
every
short
character.
film, maybe I don't know about a whole movie, but yeah.
It'd make a great short.
Yeah.
Where's my super suit? What? Where is my super suit?
Why do you need to know?
I need it.
Don't you think about running off and doing no daring do? We've been planning this dinner for 2 months.
The public is in danger.
My evening is in danger.
You tell me when my suit is, woman. We are
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of great stuff. When he shows up, he's a great supporting character here. He's the best friend of Mr. Incredible. And they have great scenes where they're talking, like the scene where they're talking in the car and they're bringing up the fact about villains and all that.
Bringing up their glory days. It was like, he has me in a death trap. And know what he does? He starts monologuing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of callbacks also. The cape thing gets a big callback in the movie. Also, the monologue thing gets a callback. As much as this movie also is a great commentary on the superhero genre, it's also a great well-made movie about superheroes too, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, we talk about that with stuff like The Boys, stuff like Invincible, even Edgar Wright's movies, stuff like Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. Is like, in order to parody something really well, you have to really love and understand the minutia of how that genre works. And The Incredibles, Chef's Kiss nails that shit to a T.
Yeah. How's it going there, Angie? Thanks for showing up, man. Much appreciated there. Yeah. And you mentioned like the great action set piece Dust mentioned in Incredibles 2. And you also have them as well in this movie with the first Incredibles. Really great stuff. Use of powers here.
Using their powers, and for the kids with Dash and Violet, really getting to show out and use their powers for the first time. Even like the scene of Dash like almost running into the water and learning that, holy shit, I can run on water, and like his joy at realizing that.
Yeah. And you see kind of the family team up, use all their kind of different abilities in different ways. So Violet, her ability, she can turn invisible.
She is Sue Storm.
She's Sue Storm. Dash is, he's got super speed there.
He was the Flash before he became a like overly complicated like mess of a character.
Yeah. You have Elastigirl, whose ability she can stretch. You know what I mean? She's Reed Richards, basically Mr. Fantastic. And you got, like I said, Mr. Incredible, who's got super strength there with his abilities. But we see that nice team up shot there of them all together posing. That was really great. Yeah. Does, what do you think about the action in this first movie there?
I mean, they use every ounce of ability that they have, and they show how it works with the environment, which was no easy task. I also like the fact that this movie takes itself seriously as well, where there's a quiet moment when Elastigirl has to explain to her kids, yeah, they're bad people, and they don't care that you're kids. They don't care. They will try and kill you. I'm not telling you to kill them, but I am telling you, you got to defend yourself. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, and it's a really cool juxtaposition to that previous scene where they're in the plane and missiles are coming, and Helen just completely drops mom and is just purely pragmatic superhero. It's almost like this coldness and practicality that she has compared to her kids. It makes that scene so much more tense.
Yeah. Just like you were saying when Dash runs across the water, which everything felt like it was storyboarded out, thought about, redone, re-storyboarded, thought about some more, and then they took the pieces that they liked and picked the best versions. And that's something we don't get as much anymore, for that kind of reforge until it's finally at the kind of enough said level where you could take the audio from this, you would understand what's happening in the action. You're not going to be confused. There's no CGI going a million miles a minute. I can't see anything because they didn't have enough time. And they wanted to make it harder for me to see, so they put it in darkness for 90% of the movie. No, this is in broad daylight, cool lava, dark cave, but I can still see everything because the cool red lava is in the background, and the light is illuminating the entire area, and it allows a color scheme, and I get to see the emotion based on the color scheme. No, it's fantastic. I cannot commend the animators and Brad Bird and his team and Pixar for making this.
Yeah,
I can't
Brandon,
commend them enough.
What are your thoughts on some of the action here?
Yeah, just echoing what these guys said. It's like just really good action. Like from the very beginning when the whole flashback sequence, Bob is on his superhero errand run before the wedding, like stopping.
It's like his own little bachelor party.
Exactly, by himself, which is very sad when you think about it. But like the scene when he's saving the cat in a tree, and then like he throws the tree to stop like the robbers. Like there's so much weight and like great like sound in that moment. Like you can feel his super strength in there.
Even when later in that scene when the train tracks blow up and he like gets in front of it to stop it and he like winces a little bit. It's like he knows he can do it. It's just gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt, which is a great superpower. When you're super strong, you can take hits, but it's still gonna hurt.
Suck.
And that's the big piece right there. It's gonna cost something to do something.
Exactly, and like you feel that in everything that they do. But just like I want to go back to like the dash scene because it's like one of my favorite what's the word? Way to show like super speed. Dash is like when I fell in love with super speed. Like that's the power I want to have. But I love the moment with like Michael Giacchino's score again, like where like the music changed like the higher notes when like he runs across the water. Like just like Dusk was saying, like you don't have to see what's happening, what's happening just like by like what you're hearing, and it's just such a good effect. Like I could watch this movie anytime, or just like rewatch the action scenes anytime.
It's got everything going for it. It's got kind of the family element. It's got kind of the good superhero element about it. It's got the good action scenes about it. So it accomplishes all those things on all those fronts. Which I think why it is still well remembered today, and why it is doing a 20th anniversary review of it. You have scenes like this, between the husband and wife there, and damn, he eating them brownies hard, he crushing that shit.
The building was coming down anyway.
What? You knocked down a building?
It was on fire, structurally unsound. It was coming down anyway.
Tell me you haven't been listening to the police scanner again.
Look, I performed a public service. You act like that's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing, Bob. Uprooting our family again so you can relive the glory days is a very bad thing.
Reliving the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen.
Yes, they happened. But this, our family, is what's happening now, Bob. And you are missing this. I can't believe you don't want to go to your own son's graduation.
It's not a graduation. He is moving from the 4th grade to the 5th grade.
It's a ceremony.
It's psychotic.
That is kind of psychotic. I gotta agree with that. Like, why am I showing up for that?
It's not about you. This is about Dash.
You want to do something for Dash? Then let him actually compete. Let him go out for sports.
I will not be made the enemy here. You know why we can't do that.
Because it'd be great.
This is not about you.
I kind of freaked out when she.
The competition, how they use their powers. It's like even in that argument, Helen is a much smaller character design than Bob is. It's like in that fight, they are still on equal playing field.
Yeah.
They are not, that's not like a lot of sitcom marriages where it's like one person is clearly in the right. Both of them have their points.
Yeah. Angela plays there. She got that long neck. Yeah. She got that Nancy Reagan throat.
Oh, no.
Damn. Hey, go.
Damn.
Yeah, I say that is also really good. So I think it hits on kind of letting you see why. I'm gonna get into one of my favorite scenes of the movie with this clip. But what do you guys? If you had to say what's kind of your favorite scene in The Incredibles, what would you go with?
Somebody else go first.
Okay, my favorite scene in this movie, it's like right before Bob is going out to go fight the giant robot and save the day, and he like tells his family to stay behind, and like his realization and his like fight that they have. It's one of the best scenes in the entire movie. It's so beautifully acted, and the complete culmination of every bit of Robert's arc in this movie.
Yeah, I think this scene sums up everything about the movie pretty well, and this is also my favorite scene in the movie too.
Well, what? I watch helplessly from the sidelines? I don't think so.
I'm asking you to wait with the kids.
And I'm telling you, not a chance. You're my husband, I'm with you. For better or worse.
I have to do this alone.
What is this to you? Playtime?
No.
So you can be Mr. Incredible again?
No.
Then what? What is it?
I'm not.
Not what?
I'm not strong enough.
Strong enough, and this will make you stronger?
Yes. No.
That's what this is? Some sort of workout?
I can't lose you again. I can't. Not again. I'm not strong enough.
And I thought that was a really good emotional moment there.
And even especially in context, because a couple scenes ago, it's like he heard his wife's voice on an intercom when they're in the plane and the missiles hit it, and he hears that there are children aboard. So in his mind, in that moment, his wife and children are dead.
Yeah. So he just had the realization, that they weren't dead anymore after they found each other on the island there. So that was also a really great moment too, because he's lost everything at that point. He's blaming himself at that moment, and him going through all this, and then to relieve his gore days, getting tricked and duped by Syndrome. He's been working for him this whole time, doing these missions, and getting captured there. So I think that was really sums up the movie really well. What about you, Dusk? What do you say is a favorite scene of yours?
It's tough. It's a lot of. When you talk about great movies, it's hard to talk about your favorite scene because everything just works. My favorite is probably my favorite scene is it's not talked about a lot, but I love the small moment where and it really shows the dynamic between him and Elastigirl as when she finds the silver strand on his suit when he comes back and he's about to head out to work. And she meets him in the car and says, I just want you to know we love you. And he's like, yeah, I know that. And then she holds on to his arm just a little bit longer and says, we love you. And there's that like moment of like, yeah, I know. Kind of like, it's just very, very well done. And it's a very small moment, but I think that really just shows the care and love they have for each other and the thought that like, he's like, yeah, I of course. And he's kind of catching on to like, are you okay? And she's like, are you okay?
It's like almost like because in her mind, it's like, okay, my husband is having an affair, and I want to remind him of the family. And like in Bob's mind, it's like, okay, everything is hunky dory, and he knows he's not. He's just going out and doing superheroing.
Right. But there is that look back with him going like. Kind of like that tilt of the head of kind of snaps him from the Riviera of everything is just hunky dory, what's wrong kind of thing, but he still goes along. And that's just before where he has that really intense robot scene. I think fantastic lead up, great moment after you've had that montage. Everything kind of builds into everything else. And that's what a great movie is. It's every scene, cutting any scene in this movie would handicap the rest of the movie.
And we talk about pacing a lot on the show about how movies that are like 3 hours long, how they feel like they're dragging, or movies that feel like they're completely seamless, or movies that are like 90 minutes but they feel like they're 3 hours. And the biggest key about that is in pacing is like every scene builds off of the next and builds off of the next and builds off of the next, and eventually you get to your climax. And this movie is like a pitch perfect case for pacing, because while the movie is relatively short, I think this is only like an hour 40 some minutes, it feels like it it is so much going on in the movie
Yeah.
that when I first saw it, I could have been there for another hour.
Yeah.
Brandon, I think I already know. I got your scene. I think I already pulled up. I think I kind of already got it pulled up for you, man. I don't think you. I think we're reading each other's minds, man. There you go, man.
Oh, I know. I knew it.
And this is the exact moment I hit puberty.
Yeah, but Brandon, what is your favorite moment there?
A lot of good ones. You guys stole a lot of like scenes that were in my head when thinking of like favorite scenes for this movie. But I think the one that I keep coming back to that you haven't said yet is Bob's first mission. Like he's back. He's in his old suit. He's not fitting in it very well. But like his first encounter with like the robot, and like it's like a perfect depiction of like when I think of like a hero out of his age, out of his time, out of his depth. Like makes you think of like Dark Knight Returns, Batman when he first got back into it, and he's rusty. But yeah, this scene, it feels like the pitch for the movie. It's like Dust mentioned that scene that isn't in the movie earlier when he's trying to put on the suit and it's working, and it's just
Yeah,
that
it doesn't fit in it anymore.
Exactly. I feel like this is like what you pitch, like a superhero getting back into it with his family thing, like this, and like the montage like later. But yeah, I love this.
In the back, every older gentleman felt that.
Yeah, I feel that now.
Felt that.
Yeah, and damn,
like,
he's got that dad bod times like 100. I mean,
I think what I also love about this movie as well is you can see a lot of 2D animation in this as well. There's so much vibrancy, so many frame by frame kind of moments.
Yeah.
See that chiropractic treatment? I need that shit.
For real.
Also, this shows Mr. Incredible as a fighter. I mean, he really used his mind as well. I think.
Yeah, it's like we see him is like his power is super strength, so we just kind of are kind of like geared to just think of him as this dumb brute, but he beats this thing by outsmarting it.
Yeah, especially compared to seeing how he was in the flashback, his glory days, and like at his peak. Like we already see how he is now, so like seeing how he is with the dad bod is very fun and very different parallel.
And even like in the his mission briefing scene, it's like they're like talking about the robot, and let me guess, it's like it got smart enough to wonder why it had to take orders. Almost like this isn't even the first time he's dealt with something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the it's just moments like that really show that the character has a history to them, which is why it makes it a credible threat. And I do like, he's a fighter, but he's a smart fighter, and he can't do some of the things he used to do or pull off when he was younger in the game. So he has to be smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and speaking, one of my favorite things is the amount of attention to detail. Like even you go into Bob's like little home office, there's so much memorabilia of like newspaper articles, so many like drawings from like school kids. He has a jar of bullets that were fired at him.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's right. They just like again, small stuff. They're there for the second, but you knew they had to fully model all that stuff if they wanted that attention to detail. So whether or not we saw it, it's there. They had to 3D model it in there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go around. Final thoughts, ratings. Brandon, what you got?
Oh man, this is easiest review ever. This is cinema. This is one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Until we get a good Fantastic Four movie, just watch this.
Yeah.
You might be
like I can watch this at any time. I don't know what else to say. Like here's something I haven't said. I love when Syndrome catches the family and he says, "Oh, this is just too dang good," and he gets like a 7.
It's like he's so giddy about it. It's like you married Elastigirl, and God, yes,
yeah, this movie is cinema. It's fantastic. I can't imagine. I'm jealous of people who haven't seen this for like the first time. Like I would love to watch this for the first time again. But yeah, this is a fantastic movie.
Nice. Nick.
Fuck, what can I say that hasn't already been said about this movie? It's like there's a reason that I keep coming back to this after decades, almost 20 years, seeing it in the theater for the first time, buying it on home video, buying every single possible physical version of this, rewatching the hell out of it when it came to, you know, stuff on Netflix or Disney Plus. This is not just cinema. This is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow.
I was like, if I had to like draw up like a top 10 list, this is easily like in the top 8.
Yeah. Dusk, what about you?
Is there any other answer? Come on. Of course, this is cinema. This is the only question you have to ask yourself is this the best Pixar movie? That is the true question you ask yourself, and it comes down to a few contenders. But this is cinema. This is why you come into the movies. This is why you remember the movies. This is why you buy a medium so you can rewatch the movie. This is why you look at the special features and digest every little aspect of it. This is why you buy the video games that come out later. This is why you do all the bunch of things for this. That inspires you to then think of something yourself, or inspires you to do something else, or get interested into more movies. There's more movies like this. This is the reason why you go, and especially for when it came out, time it came out, how ingrained it is into pop culture as a whole. Everybody references The Incredibles. It's still probably one of the most popular Pixar movies they ever did. In the echelon of golden era, it's still one of the most well-liked, even by older audiences. That's who remember it just as much as the kids who watched it with their parents. This is what you come to the movies for. And this is what I expect the bar that was set, and it's their own fault, the bar that Pixar set, along with the other masterpieces that they made, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point.
Yeah. For Whitney, Toy Story. She said that Toy Story wins. It's tough, yeah.
It's kind of like asking to name your favorite Scorsese movie. You could say anything, and you really wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be mad with anybody's answer with Pixar.
Yeah, unless somebody says Cars. I mean,
that's like the one.
I said golden era.
Okay, those are the three that I would say. Okay, you possibly have brain damage.
Yeah.
Like you can like Cars. There's nothing wrong with liking Cars or even enjoying it. But it's not in the upper echelon by any means.
Yeah. But yeah, like Whitney said here, Incredibles is also, dare I say, incredible.
I mean,
somebody said it.
I mean, The Incredibles is one of the greatest animated movies ever made, one of the greatest movies ever made, not even just animated there, period. I think it is really that great. I think it works on all the levels that we said, being a good family movie, also being a good superhero movie, doing both dynamics really well. Great voice cast from everybody involved. I mean, nobody misses a beat here. Everybody does fantastic in their respective roles. How everybody is so defined by the look of them and their superpower, like Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible and Violet and Dash. I think all that works really well. How they all fit their abilities incredibly well. I mean, this is hard to top. I think this is one of my favorite, even more than Toy Story. I like Incredibles more than that. I think it is my favorite Pixar movie there. This is definitely this is cinema for me. I don't know. I think we all have to brace for the possibility of they're probably going to make a live action version of this. I think we all have to probably brace for that.
Just make Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
You know,
honestly, you have the formula right in front of you of what works. Retrofuturism. Make Fantastic Four in the 60s, in an alternative 60s. You know, when Robert Downey, Iron Man's dad was going and doing stuff. Howard Stark. They were the family. They got lost in the quantum realm because that's a thing that happens in the Fantastic Four stuff. They got lost. They pop back out. Oh my God! So much time has passed.
Yeah,
we're in the retrofuturism.
Yeah, just like first Avengers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen some kind of decent live action. Not to give them any ideas of them trying to do it, but like they've had like what's his name from Stranger Things? The cop.
David Harbour.
David Harbour is Mr. Incredible. They had Haley Atwell as Mrs. Incredible, Elastigirl. they had
Yes, I want to see that for
Mhm.
I think somebody had well, who was, I mean, she probably way too old now, but Jenna
This is-
Ortega was Violet.
Oh yeah, no.
Of course.
They had one of the kids from WandaVision as Dash.
Oh,
Yeah, I could.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so.
Um
I mean that We Like Ice Cream song should kind of put you in actor jail at least until you hit puberty, kid. I'm gonna
somebody
be honest.
somebody also had the little kid from Jojo Rabbit, him being Dash.
Oh yeah, that could work.
Okay. All right, I see it.
And then
Now we cooking.
and then Edna Mode, they had, I don't know if anybody watches like NCIS or something like that. Like that
Oh,
woman.
I
Oh,
already
yeah.
know who you're gonna say.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they had that woman. If I have her picture right here,
Was
but
way
I don't know the actress.
older than she looks.
Yeah, this woman right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's got I mean, she really is like almost
yeah.
born to play this character almost. Like I don't know if
Absolutely,
I don't know what came first, her look or Edna Mode. I don't know what really came first.
To be
but-
specific, that's NCIS Miami.
Okay. Yeah.
This is like a chicken or the egg situation.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically everybody they had that. I think that's David Harbour is Mr. Credible. I guess I see that. I mean, if they did,
I see them.
As long as they let him, I don't just make a Fantastic Four. You already have it. Disney owns it. Just make it. You can make The Incredibles again, but let it be Fantastic Four property, and I still watch it. It won't be as great, but I'll watch it.
Frozone. Who would you get to be Frozone?
Samuel L. Jackson.
You think so? He's not way too old to be. He's like 70 something.
Yeah, I know, but don't take the paycheck, and they already have him on call.
Somebody here said either Anthony Mackie or Jamie Foxx for Frozone. I could see Anthony Mackie.
I can see Anthony Mackie.
I'd say Omar Sy.
Omar Sy. Okay.
Yeah. Just off of Book of Clarence.
Yeah. I could see it. But I think Anthony Mackie would do better at saying super suit. Like, where is my super suit? I think he would do
He's
much
a very
better.
talented actor. It's just a shame they kind of pigeonhole him sometimes.
Yeah. But so that was The Incredibles. This is cinema all around for that.